Hi, my name is Mariela Sida. I am a daughter to immigrant parents. My family, like 44 million other families, came into this country with nothing and attempts to make something out of what they were sold as the American dream. I'll now go into the pull factors of what brought my family here or other family stories. As a junior, I was encouraged to take environmental studies as a project-based learning class. When I got the opportunity to choose a topic that I could spend the rest of the school year researching and creating a product, I'll admit it, I was stuck and didn't know where to go from environmental racism. And yes, I decided to base my project on such a broad topic. Environmental racism is defined as the systematic enforcement of rules and regulations that target ethnic and racial minorities as well as low-income communities, forcing them to live in the proximity to environmentally dangerous conditions. Essentially, environmental rules and regulations that have no consideration for racial and ethnic minorities and low-income communities. For the past 3 weeks or so, I've been doing endless research on such a broad topic. I started locally here in Waukesha. I learned that neighborhoods that are populated with minorities tend to be neighborhoods that also house waste centers. For example, many cheap housing in the city of Waukesha are located either in Century Drive or Main Street. Here's the reality. Century Drive is the house for the resident drop-off center, as well as Main Street is the house of the Waukesha Iron and Metal. But to be truly honest with you, it didn't interest me, so I dropped it and moved away from Waukesha and turned my attention to where my parents first started their journey, La Villita. I also didn't know where to go from here, so I started looking into houses near the area of La Villita, and I had the opportunity to talk to a realtor through Realtor.com named Jessica, and confirmed to me that these houses in La Villita were built either in the late 1800s or even during the 1900s. Mariela, what is so bad that these houses were built in the 1900s? See, houses built during these time periods are more likely to have lead paint in them. Being exposed to lead paint causes damage to the kidneys and the central nervous system, leading up to comas, seizures, and even death. I had a conversation with the community coordinator of the EPA Region 5, Heriberto Leon. After several questions, one in particular stuck to me, and it kind of hit home.
You have reached the United States Environmental Protection Agency, Region 5 in Chicago. Hello, this is Heriberto Leon.
I talked to a realtor a while back, and some houses near these areas were built in the 1900s. Given that these houses were built over 100 years ago and are exposed to lead paint or lead soil, what have been some of the solutions to it, and are all these houses being helped? His response was, the only involvement the EPA has on lead-based paint removal is training contractors to remove it safely from their residents' home. And I asked for a clarification. I said, you're telling me that you guys only train these contractors to be able to be contract and be able to remove lead paint from their houses? And he said, yes. Now here's where I got stumped. Your demographics at La Villita and Pilsen are primarily Latinos, majority being Mexican and Mexican Americans. Apart from the fact that they have to settle for low-paying jobs because they lack education or experience, they have to pay for their kids' schooling, rent, groceries, utilities, along with other expenses. They still have to contract someone to remove their lead paint from their houses, and there goes another $10,000. Mariela, these people are escaping political turmoil. Mariela, they are not getting killed in their country, and they are escaping violence. Mariela. Yes, I understand all these wonderful things are happening, but life back home is hard. Life back home is not how people paint it. See, many people depend on crops to earn a living, so with climate change, weather is not very compliant. So the possibilities of no crops during crop season are extremely likely. Let me put things into perspective for you, viewer. Maybe you being the subject, you might understand kind of what it feels like to be in a situation like this. See, you are married to your wonderful wife, you have 2 wonderful kids, and you're a farmer, so you grow crops for a living. You've been growing crops for quite a while. The weather hasn't been the greatest, you kind of don't have a lot of rainfall, or you've been having a lot of flooding, and your crops are ruined, but maybe by the end of the season you might have a few crops, but these crops are not profitable. See, at this point, many people will decide to join los carteles, sell drugs, enter the violence. But I don't want that life for you. Just because I'm nice, I don't want that life for you. I want you to immigrate to the United States, and because La Villita is our point of conversation, you are going to settle there. So you gather everything you have, your earnings, your savings, anything that you've had money-wise for a while now, you take that with you. And when you get to La Villita, you buy the cheapest house in the market. And I say house because the cheapest thing you can buy in the market is an empty lot. But you buy the cheapest house in the market. It was built around 1914, let's say. You and your wife get a job now. You guys get a low-paying job because you guys don't have skill, don't have the education, or you just don't speak the language. But let's say you guys also get a second job because, sometimes you want to treat yourself to nice things. You've also enrolled your kids into the local school district because you want them to get an education that you were not able to obtain. Have you guys ever heard, la curiosidad mata? Yeah, curiosity kills. So when your kids see paint chipping off the wall, it's quite curious. It's quite satisfying. Your kids tend to put their fingers in their mouth, and maybe they'll put toys in their mouth. Who knows? But weeks go by, and your kid starts showing symptoms. But you think their stomach flu, or maybe just something that you can cure with home remedies. Months go by, and your kid is not getting any better. So then you decide to take him to the clinic. But here's a long secret that you guys have never shared with anything. Because of your status in the United States, you are not eligible for insurance or any governmental help or any benefits from your job. So now you have a full medical bill to pay off aside from treatment. And then you also have utilities, groceries, and any other expenses that have been a burden to you. Has anything changed really? No. See, I'm not here to tell you how broken our government system is. I am not here to tell you that our immigration system is broken and that our immigrants should gain benefits. But I'm here to tell you that for us immigrants, the government is not helping, especially the EPA, that stands for Environmental Protection Agency. I feel more protected in my own home in Mexico than I feel protected in a country that is protecting me from violence and gangs. Never fall for what other people sell you as the American dream. Each and every one of us has what is the American dream. Maybe it's different for you and maybe it's different for me. But the American dream should never be to die in the U.S. of lead-based paint because the EPA and the government weren't willing to provide help or support to remove this without being a burden on you. Tu lucha es mi lucha y por eso estoy aquí hoy hablando sobre el racismo ambiental.